Hello, and welcome to episode 11 of the Arc-Aholics. This podcast is a collection of passionate gamers talking about Arc Raiders and various related topics. All content creator guests have their channels linked in the description below. I highly recommend checking them all out, and at the end, we'll be talking about the cool content we got planned coming down the pipe. But before we get started, here's a quick shout out to the channel supporters. These absolute legends help make this kind of content possible. And a special shout out to my gold tier supporter, the Tranimal. Check out the links below if you're curious on how to support the channel. With that out of the way, let's get rolling. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Arc-Aholics, a podcast dedicated to Arc Raiders and everything associated with it. With me today, I've got our great panel today. We've got, to my left, that way, is Lou from Itsluve's YouTube channel. Please say hello.
How's it going, everyone?
And as usual, we got our Embark residential content creator, Rockhoundblack, right down here, or wherever I put him in the screen. Please say hello.
G'day. I hope everyone's doing really well.
Fantastic. And I believe as of the time of this recording, we're at what, 46 days, 45 days, something like that?
Coming up.
I've been trying not to count too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that number tends to go down a little fast now. Like it's getting hallmarks. Pretty soon it'll be 30. Watch it.
You watch a what do you call it? A jug or a kettle in the States? If you watch it for too long, it takes too long to boil.
Boiled pot never. Pot never boils or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. So today we're going to have a deep dive into the tech tree that is Arc Raiders. For those of you who are watching and listening right now that did not get a chance to play and don't know too much about it, just to sum it up real quick for their sake, in Arc Raiders you have generally XP for a variety of actions. We're not going to get into all the nitty gritty of that, but you generate XP and then you spend said XP on points and levels, or rather every level you get a new point, and you put those points into various tree branches on there. I'll be putting it on the screen here to kind of just illustrate, what it would generally look like. It had 3 branches referred to as conditioning, mobility, and survival. We're going to be diving deep into those mechanics, our thoughts around it, and what we're looking forward to in the future. All right. So we'll start off with the first question here. Rockhound, if someone was starting off in Arc Raiders and they're like, hey man, I don't know I got like 5 points banked because I have no idea which branch I'm gonna go into. Can you sum it up for me? What's your elevator pitch of just how those 3 branches to you, how would they play? Like how would you make the case for each one of them?
Yeah. Well, I think, and I hope everyone agrees with this, but I'd say that the number one thing you probably want to focus on for a start is conditioning, because it affects above everything else your stamina. And so that means that when you're out in the open, running and sprinting, trying to get to cover, you're going to take less time to do it, or your stamina is going to be reduced at a slower rate. They're the main sort of things that one offers. So that's probably where a lot of people focus first, and I do too. Then mobility kind of is a mixed bag of things. Like being able to slide further, vault faster, being able to vault after, being able to jump after vaulting. So all those things around your movement. So they tend to be quite specific situations. And then survival, again, it's a bit of a mixed bag, but it's things like making less noise when you're looting, finding more items when you're looting, those kind of things. So generally, I would say conditioning would be the number 1, mobility number 2, and survival number 3. Because that sort of relates to how often you're going to use them.
Okay, interesting. Itsluve, would it surprise you? Because I put out a poll on there, and we got about 129 votes asking my audience, how many of you put in the majority of your points went into which branch, right? Now, 129 votes. Here's how it broke down. Let me know if this surprises you at all. Survival got 25% of the vote. Mobility got 29% of the vote. And conditioning got 47% of the vote. Does that surprise you at all?
No. I don't think so. I think conditioning for your gameplay just being able to run further, carry more. We had an extraction shooter with those two things, really kind of the core of what the game's about, movement and carrying stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm interested to see, because I did see that poll, is did anything affect that because it was a beta test? Did I want to run further because I had less time to do something? Would I have maybe not put more things into survival because I might not have been playing sneakier on a longer format? You know what I mean? Were any of those choices conditioned by the fact that we had a limited amount of time to test it out?
Interesting. Yeah, and then think about that. That brings up a very good point. Lord knows, I think that also affects player behavior in terms of like aggression. I feel like I was way more willing to just say F it and just cold W because I knew, and I'm only going to be here, especially in my case where I knew I couldn't play the last 2 days of the test anyway. So for me, mentally, I already knew it was a shorter test. So I was
and a lot of goes into that about being a temporary game mode, right? When you're in a real extraction shooter, you really have that the gear fear of like, I want this rifle, it's nice, but when the beta is about to be over, doesn't fit the same. So I wonder if you'll see more of a survival approach when people are like, dang, I actually like this rifle a lot, and the beta's not going away tomorrow. It's the game's out, we're playing it. So that's just like something I thought when I saw that poll.
Rockhound, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be an element. I also think that poll actually kind of gives away what I was saying before, but also Embark will have stats that probably aren't too different from that, and they would have seen that maybe half the player base or thereabouts was focusing on mobility. And so I think we could expect some major changes to the skill tree by the time the game comes out, because they will want it to be much harder to choose between which branch you're going to work on.
I agree.
If you go to one, and I'm sorry, I'm not, because I didn't play the beta, of course. Can you eventually go all into every tree? Or is there a limited amount of points?
As of right now.
That's what?
Right. That was unknown as of right now. We'll get into that in terms of the questions on whether or not it should be one way or the other and why. So we're definitely going to get to that in a second. But first, I would like to start off with a little game before we get too deep into the actual meat of the skill tree, because some of those answers might be given away because just for sake of discussion, right? We're gonna do a little true or false. Audience, if y'all want to play along, no cheating, right? A little true or false. I got 4 questions, and we'll see if Rockhound, because he's the one who played the game. Luv, feel free to give us your honorary answers as well. On which one you think is going to be it's true or false. Okay.
Sorry, but the setup for this just appears that I'm the only one that can lose in this situation, really.
No. But you're also the one who can win.
But I also think I will lose, so you got that going for you.
Yeah, but you got a good excuse for losing.
Everyone loves a good underdog story.
It's all right. Don't worry. You can do it. I believe in you. All right. True or false? The movement branch has just as many nodes affecting stamina as the conditioning branch.
Are we saying it's a lot of writing down? What are we doing?
Writing it down. You're gonna say true or false, right? But you just give me once you have your answer locked in, just the other person.
So this is the mobility branch you're talking about.
Yeah.
It has just as many as conditioning.
Yeah, the mobility branch has just as many nodes affecting stamina as the conditioning branch.
I want to say false, but the fact you've asked the question,
I'm going true.
A bit of game theory here. The fact you've asked the question, I'm going to go that it's true.
See, yeah, you're both right. You actually are correct. They each have 6 nodes, right, available that affect stamina, in a not just direct way, but also indirect way. Like fight or flight would, in my opinion, would count, because basically it says, or it would count because as soon as you get hurt, you get extra stamina, so that's a stamina gain. Or after you do XYZ, vaulting, costs no stamina. That's affects stamina.
And I think that's the difference, is that the mobility one is situation specific. So it's like if you do this, you have more stamina or you recover stamina faster.
Right.
Whereas the conditioning one is increase of stamina, or
not
it takes
always,
longer
but generally, not always.
Passive effect,
Yeah. All right. Second question. All right. The survival branch has 2 nodes that affect stamina.
It's gotta be true. It's a blind gut check.
Yeah, I would say it's probably true, because I remember seeing them across the board. So,
all Right.
Yeah.
See, I
true.
mess with you a little bit. They have one node that affects stamina, not two.
Okay.
We're all
The
friends here.
conditioning branch has more points to spend on stamina in the second half than the mobility branch.
Ooh.
So to specify
I-
those key
I'm gonna
nodes,
go. I'm gonna go false on that one. I remember seeing a lot of stamina early on in the conditioning branch, but maybe not so much towards the
I'll
end.
agree. False, yeah.
All right, you are correct. See, the conditioning stamina, as popular as it was for the stamina, it was all front loaded. All of it. The first half was just absolutely just destructively strong, to the point where, in my opinion, there's no wrong points to put in that particular part of the tree.
Yeah.
However, it just falls off like a rock right afterwards, and there's no stamina whatsoever after that. Whereas mobility actually has some stamina effects in the second half. Right. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. The survival branch lets you level up your ability to breach things more quietly and more quickly.
That gotta be true.
That's definitely true.
That is false. Survival branch gives you the ability to breach things more quietly, but not more quickly. That's the conditioning branch. Seems kind of backwards, doesn't it? Don't you think?
Yeah.
I can see it both ways.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting because because conditioning they had the second half was all about strength, like melee strength and things like that. So you could breach things quicker, whereas the survival is you can breach things quieter. Personally, I'm not sure what your guys think. Maybe those belong in the same tree. I think.
Maybe it's a trade-off though. Like maybe if you can't go into every tree, if it's like you're either in there loud and strong or quiet and slow.
Right. So that's pretty much the true or false. Audience, tell me how you guys did figuring all that out. So with that in mind, we talked about the tech tree a little bit. There's some points you can put into things, and in terms of what's front loaded and what's not. My personal opinion on this one, I'd like to get you guys' take on this. Right, I felt like because you had so little stamina to begin with, it almost forced you to go into stamina right off the bat. Because let's say the first three choices that you have are increased stamina, increased vault speed, and reveal items and looting faster. And if you've played the game enough to get those XP points, you've learned very quickly that your stamina is your lifeblood. If you have no stamina, chances are, and you get into a bad situation, chances are you're going to die. I felt like it's almost a trap in terms of like, well, that's kind of the obvious choice, at least for now. And then you look just a few more nodes before that. I mean, after that, you're like, well, this just keeps getting better, and you can spend.
And the fact it was so front loaded with stamina gains on the conditioning tree that it made it just a no brainer really to focus on that, at least initially.
Right.
And I can kind of weigh that back to when I first started Tarkov, when you train your stamina in Tarkov and you work out in your bunker at Tarkov. My buddy who was playing, I was just always behind him in sprint and he was waiting for me. And I think there is a balance between realistic and fun in video games, right?
Right.
Or maybe that base needs to be taken up a little bit so that first increases max stamina doesn't feel like it's a necessity.
Right. And that's why I kind of call it a trap, like in the sense that and also because of how armor worked in the game, where it only scaled in one direction, it's basically just got heavier, and your bags just got bigger, so you can carry more. And so over the course of that, you learning stamina is your lifeblood, so you learn more is better. And then you learn, okay, well, when I carry things, I get heavier, which means my stamina starts to go down further. So there's another note in there that says, oh, my encumbrance doesn't reduce as much when I'm, or my stamina doesn't reduce as much when I'm encumbered. And then you see the other one where it's like, well, heavy armor doesn't affect you as much. I felt like the way this game was structured, it's almost like a trap. Like you had to go in that direction.
Do you feel though that maybe
that way?
Maybe this, well, kind of, but the other way to look at it is potentially it's an accessibility thing. So, right, if you're a new player, unfamiliar with a game that has these kind of options that you can change your character, then in a way, it's nice for the game to kind of present you one that's like, hey, maybe you should do this because it's kind of the most obvious. And then you kind of feel, okay, I'm kind of getting the sense of how the skill tree works now for using one for the first time. And then it becomes more complicated after that. So perhaps it is an accessibility thing to help new players to sort of feel like they're not completely overwhelmed by it.
But do you feel like if that is the case, we should probably be seeing an option to like respec fairly early on then?
What do you mean by respec?
Well, in terms of like you said, they've taken the time to like learn the game, and now they've spent all these points in this. And let's say there's a situation where, okay, well, I've spent all these points, but now I want to play differently now that I've learned the game better. Giving the player an opportunity to like pay a certain amount of like in-game currency, be like, cool, I want to respend these points in a different way.
Yeah,
I feel like that should probably be like a gimme, like fairly early on, if that is in fact the goal.
Yeah, it's the one thing that I find interesting is that with the skill tree is that the branches are completely separate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's no option to start on one branch and actually move to another and skip parts of it. Like you know, if you look at a skill tree and say, a friend of mine was playing Path of Exile 2 the other day,
that's not
and that skill tree is
that's a universe.
Right? The first time I've ever seen that, I was just like, whoa, this is like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But you had the options to kind of, you know, take your character on a certain path, like almost like you're deciding who they're going to be. And I feel like this skill tree doesn't really do that so much. It's more like like your character is going to be the same character, but just what strengths do you want them to have overall? So I don't know. I feel like this skill tree is just a case of actually eventually you're going to fill up all the branches, and it's just prioritization as opposed to deciding what your character is actually like.
Gotcha. So what you're basically in your mind, you're feeling like it was set up to basically be you're going to fill it all up. It's just a matter of how.
Yeah, that's right. It's what order are you going to fill it all up in, and what do you consider to be more important? And that's the variation, as opposed to going, what sort of character do I actually want to end up with completely, you know, and make it very different from someone else's character. I don't think that it doesn't really feel like that.
Luv, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I do agree. If the end goal is that you fill out the entire skill tree and you're just kind of, let's say, carving your way there of, well, oh, I'm halfway up stamina, let me go a little in survival now that I have, like, we're in mid-game or something, I think that's fine. What I don't like is if you have a certain capped amount of points and then you are faced with a decision, like from my background of MMORPGs, where let's say there's 100 total points across the 3 and they only give you 60. So now you have to put 60 points into 100 total options. And, you know, there's advantages to going all the way down one or splitting half in the other. Specializations in World of Warcraft is something I think about. You know, nowadays you pick kind of Frost the Death Knight, Blood Death Knight, or Unholy Death Knight. They all have their advantages and disadvantages. But back in the day, old World of Warcraft, which people love, you could go into each of them a tiny bit, and you could pull little bits from little bits. But the main thing is that if you chose to go all in one, if I was a Frost Death Knight, that played completely different than Unholy Death Knight. So if stamina or if conditioning is so overpowered, let's not bring that down and nerf that tree. Let's make survival come up. Let me make a separate character that, like, oh, you're conditioning. Like, yeah, I'm gonna run hard. I got this heavy armor. I can run hella fast. And I'm somehow doing something with survival that I have 0 footstep sound, like completely
Holding
0 footstep
hatch
sound.
keys, perhaps?
Yeah, or maybe, like, I'm going too far here, but an invisibility, like something that's like, instead of being a heavy brute holding everything, I'm more light on my feet, or like a stealthy sort of thing. Make going into one of the trees be as overpowered an extraction shooter as holding more and running more, which on the base of an extraction shooter, holding more and running more, that's pretty hard. Fucking strong. Like that's the two things you want to do in the extraction shooter is run more and hold more. So bringing the other things, I'm a fan of not nerfing things in games, so bringing other options up. I hate when guns get nerfed. Let's bring other options up. So when it comes to, you know, mobility, like maybe we have people are going to hate this. Maybe we have a slide canceling, like Call of Duty-esque, like that would be your advantage. You can't carry more. You can't carry more, but I might be able to outskill you in a PvP fight, right? There's an advantage to doing that versus if it's just I can vault a little quicker, but it's always going to be worse than conditioning. again, my option if you can't go into all three. If you can go into all three, then it's kind of just like, yeah, I want to unlock doors faster now. Yeah, I want to do that. It's just kind of like, why not have a full up unlock? And like, why pick these trees if we're eventually going to have it all? A little bit of player choice, a little bit of player initiative there. But again, if you're going into all of it, I don't really think it matters what they do in the end.
Right. I think it comes down to what you want your early game to look like and what you want your, like, what you have the lowest priority in.
Yeah.
I know for me, I know some people will, we had some people in there in the comments that were pointing out people were sleeping on the survival tree and whatnot. They're usually because they got slept in the lobbies, but whatever. But they had some interesting skills and some interesting things that I wouldn't mind having, but not at the cost of, let's say, the extra stamina or the ability to get stamina as soon as I get hit. It's like, that's kind of a gimme. Or the ability to have my armor, not affect my movement as much, especially in a game where heavy armor was king. And so I feel like, yeah, I'd probably go into conditioning, because if I look at how it was, the first half of conditioning was super strong. Mobility, the first half was pretty good. There was a couple of nodes that I was like, I'll probably put one in there just to kind of skip through it and get the middle node. And then there's a little bit in the half end. I can easily see myself not touching survival, but like getting half of mobility and conditioning. And then at that point, cool, well, what's the next thing, I guess, to spend my points in? At that point, I've gotten all the important stuff, which I feel like, I don't know, kind of feels not as fun as it could be. It feels a little dry, right? I feel like I personally would rather be limited, right? And have you not be able to pull it through. And that gives me the opportunity to then go to look forward to other playthroughs. To then go, okay, I played the super fast mobility individual. And then personally for me, I feel like they need to separate the mobility and stamina part from like being able to carry more stuff. I think they need to separate those two, because that's just too strong, as Lucas pointed out, too strong together. If you separated those two, then that might be two different trees. You go, I want to be super fast. Then one's go school. I want to be able to like carry a bunch of heavy stuff. And then the third one can be XYZ. And
you need to take down core game mechanics and then gamify those. And mobility and carrying stuff in one tree is just good for extraction shooters.
Right. And for me, I would like the opportunity to go, cool, I'm really excited. I'm going to play this way. And then prestiging or whatever it is, once I'm kind of like done in terms of, let me try over again. Let me play this different way. And that kind of gives me another level of excitement to really look forward to, as opposed to just like, all right, cool, I kind of got these things done. Let's just kind of color by numbers now at this point.
Yeah, and a way to think about it would be also, you could imagine an experienced player, say they got a buddy that comes and joins the game for the first time after a month or something like that. And that experienced player is really just going to look at that new player and go, okay, how far are you on the path to getting to be where I am? As opposed to going, oh, you've chosen to be this type of player, and that's totally different from me, Like, there's not really that choice. It's actually just a path that everyone's going to take, but just in a slightly different way.
Right.
So I think I'd like to see a little bit more variation that divides players' characteristics, so they are playing slightly different from one another.
Especially in a squad-based game where we can come together and I can be like, yo, Rock, like you're like conditioning. I'm actually over here in survival. And since we're teaming up, we're on these trees, we can do a different way to go into this thing. Because we have, maybe you can do something here and I can do something here, and those come together, and it changes the way we gameplay, because it is a squad-based game. Like,
right. You don't want to take away from the solos as well, because you want that to be a significant.
Yeah, don't unlock everything. Don't lock people out, but have people be able to work together to achieve something.
Because think about it this way, right? In terms of like, before we bring in the solo aspect of it, to think of it this way, where you can have one player, like us three as a trio, you can be like, all right, well, I really like, moving around, being highly mobile. And so I've got conditioning, I got mobility, I got to vault really fast, I can do all that kind of stuff, right? Whereas you got Rock, okay, he's more of a brute force, so he can carry more stuff, but he can also like break doors faster, things of that nature. And you got Lou over here, it's cool, I went scavenger mode or like survival. It's cool. Now I'm the only one who can even handle hatch keys, or who can even interact with certain portions or containers or what have you. It's like he has the ability to do those kind of things, or just break certain things completely silent. And that allows us to go, cool, we have a full squad. There's a reason to build a certain way. Like no one, like people who play healers in RPGs, like I'm playing healer because I'm always gonna have a party. Everyone's gonna want a healer. Same thing. I want to play survival. I'm the one who handles that hatch keys. Guess what? I'm always gonna be in demand. So I feel like
and so you could almost say it's like it's not really, you're not really making a hero shooter, like as in build your own hero, but it's more like just giving your character a slant that might be different from your teammate, but together they're quite complementary, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that all waters down that if we all have that, like, oh my gosh, we're all playing, let's say, I don't know, max level. Let's say max level is 100. We're all level 50, and we're all halfway through those trees, and we all have those different specs. I think that completely breaks down if we play a little more, and we all get to level 100, and I'm like, oh, I used to love when Rock could do that. I can do that now.
Yeah.
Like, I can do what he did now. Oh, I can, yeah. Oh, no, I just got it, because I unlocked the whole tree. Like, I think the choice... Or else, why have a tree? If your choice doesn't matter, and this is a big thing in World of Warcraft they've struggled with for many years, if your choice doesn't matter, you'll feel that. If your choice is eventually just be, oh, I'll eventually get that one, then it's not a choice. You're just heading down on a battle pass, and you can click one, maybe one or the other, but it's just, if you're going to get everything eventually, it's just a battle pass of getting better.
Right.
And do you think, I guess this is a question for both of you, if it is that everyone's going to get it eventually, then in a way the skill tree is going to have to be incorporated somehow into whatever they use in place of a wipe, right? So because you've got to get rid of that at some point if everyone's got it. If everyone's filled them up, well, you've got to find a way to bring it back to zero. But if it's more of a character type of thing, that's not so important because you can continue to play a certain style but just lose gear in some fashion, right?
It also depends how much it goes. Sorry, go on.
No, you go ahead.
Like if everything's a 5%, right? Like if I can open a chest 5% faster versus if I'm opening a chest 75% faster, like I really think I don't think you need to wipe the entire skill tree if I'm like, I can dodge roll with 10% less stamina use. Like it depends on the percentage. Like, am I gonna, if you join the game right now, level 10, and I'm level 100 full skill tree, you still should be able to beat me.
Right.
Like I hope you should be able to beat me. And I that's where I hope, like, again, skills don't just like, you have to walk that balance. If you should feel like, oh, cool, let's unlock that, but you can't lock people out because they just haven't put in the time.
And that's the balance. I think that's really kind of just the hairy situation that Embark is going to put themselves in, because you want those choices to be impactful, but not so much so that they are a ridiculously overpowered, unbreakable thing for a player who hasn't gotten to that point. You don't want it to be lopsided in that way. But yeah, I think but one of the suggestions I've seen in my comment section is as an incentive for prestige is to have a fourth branch that you only get points for when you prestige, right? And those don't for when you do that. So it still runs into the same thing we just talked about. It was like you can't make it too powerful. Yeah. But it gives people a reason to keep prestiging. Again, you're eventually going to get to that end anyways, as long as you play it. But it's going to take a lot longer though.
Yeah. And what if that fourth branch, again, Sibylling here, affected out of game stuff, larger storage, better sell price, stuff that's not going to affect my one-on-one on you in the actual battlefield. But let's say you got into that fourth branch, you have prestige, and now once you go through like that middle again, you get 10% more currency when you sell something back, so you can buy that backpack a little faster. I think out of game stuff would be cool or out of, what do you call it, drop stuff would be
right. Non-gunfight oriented type things, basically.
Yeah.
I know some people will say survival. I know some people will say survival, non-gunfight oriented things. Yes, they are actually. Unpopular opinion. I know I'm going to get pitchforks and torches in the comment section when I say this. The game, at the core of it, is PvP, right? When you're advocating for a quieter looting or quieter breaking, you're doing it because why? Because you don't want to attract PvP, right? That's you're not.
Also, the reason it's called PvPvE. It's not PvEvP.
Right. I mean, I can go a whole rabbit hole into that, but like that's it. You're picking that. Those things are considered good for that reason, right? And but the important thing, like you were saying, is that these things shouldn't, to the degree that they're impactful, not overpowered in a gunfight. Whereas I think you said a good point, is that sometimes the out of raid aspects of it might be attractive in terms of giving people something to shoot for. What do you think about that?
And that's just like rewarding for time in, right? That's like the main thing with skill trees is like, I should feel stronger, and there should be there's an opportunity there for quality of life things that don't affect in the moment things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think we didn't see the numbers, right? We don't get any numbers given to us,
Right,
but I felt like
questions.
you could certainly notice after going into the conditioning tree, maybe a couple of steps. I could certainly tell that I was running faster or my stamina was regaining quicker, right? It was definitely noticeable.
Yeah, the stamina, just the first node alone, just like putting in a couple of points was very noticeable. And then I put it into the mobility one because I saw immediately after the first node there was the spend less stamina moving around. I'm like, that synergizes really well with the stamina tree as well. So like I kind of dove into that one a little bit just so I can get that, so I get the maximum use out of the conditioning, and like very noticeable, like extremely noticeable, right? Not game breaking, but like I think it's only because you started off so low to begin with that it almost became mandatory.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what you want in a skill tree is mandatory. That's what you never want to hear.
You never want to hear that. And like you pointed out, Rockhound, is we don't actually get any numbers. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We can talk about that, but like that reminds me of the quote, Louv, you keep bringing up about optimizing fun out of the situation.
I have a big, what did you call it, opinion on not giving numbers. And this comes from Call of Duty and World of Warcraft. And the players will find the numbers. The players will find a spreadsheet. They'll have their buddy come into a drop, and they'll have one gun with a perk, one gun without a perk, and they'll be, this is 3 headshots to the body, 3 headshots to kill versus 4 headshots to kill. People will break down the percentages, and that comes back to that conversation we had a long time ago, where you might not give it to me in game, but if it's out of game, just like the Tarkov stuff we were talking about. If someone's going to find all the percentages out of game of the stamina, of how fast they run, they're going to have people running next to each other over a set distance and how much quicker that guy gets there. Then it'll be a percentage breakdown of this is actually 12.6% faster. People will find them. I've been playing MMORPGs. This came also up a lot from Call of Duty Warzone. I say 2 or 3 years ago didn't have those stats. They didn't have bullet penetration. They didn't have time to kill on any of them. People found them. There were full Excel spreadsheets of time to kill of every gun and everything. So if they're sitting there like, you kind of don't know, it's kind of ethereal, it's going to get found out. It's going to get known. Does that add fun, or does that take away fun?
Rockhound, do you think the game is probably better off just skipping that step and just adding the numbers to begin with, or
I actually think they should leave the number. I think they should leave the numbers out, and the reason being is that at its heart, Arc Raiders is going to be an accessible game, and we might call it serious casual, right? If you wanted to sort of put it in that ballpark. Adding numbers, suddenly it kind of says to you, you should do something with these numbers because we're showing them to you. And then the next step is to obviously put them into some sort of spreadsheet to kind of figure out, how should I play? Well, I need to start doing some spreadsheets and work out what I need to do. Well, to me, that's not really accessible. I think accessible says, don't worry about the numbers, just focus on what you want to do. And the people that want to worry about the numbers, they can do that, but you can play the game equally as well without knowing the numbers.
Interesting. So if I'm rephrasing what you're saying, basically the people who, and kind of combining your guys' opinions on this, is that the people who really want to find the numbers, who really want to metagame it out, can actually do it, because there's going to be third-party routes that people are going to do, like content creators or whoever, who are going to crunch those numbers for them anyways, and they're going to be able to find that. But the average player who's not going to go that deep into it, they can concentrate on just having the fun portion of it first, and then if they want to later on, they can do that. But for the most part, just like concentrate on playing the game, have fun, and if you're the kind of person who wants that, someone's going to find it anyways. That basically summarizes. I think that's kind of like the balance of the two.
Yeah, and also I think the overall sort of maybe meta is not the right word, but the overall play style of the game, I don't think these things will make as much difference that it's going to absolutely decide a gunfight, right? So someone going in not knowing the numbers, they just know, I run faster than I did before. That they should equally have as much chance to win a gunfight just based on skill as someone who knows all the numbers, right? So it shouldn't come down to knowing the numbers, right? That's what I'm saying.
I think oftentimes,
and the reason,
go ahead.
Sorry. The reason why I think numbers are important a lot of times comes also to, can you respec? Because, so let me read one right here. I know it's the first one of survival, right? But it says, when searching a container, loot is revealed faster. what if I'm disappointed by that? What if like in my head it's 50% faster and I get it and it's 3% faster? And I now regret, like, I don't know, was there going to be a source of regret of like, I feel like I agree with you, not wording it casual, it's fine. But we need to have good writing of like your shields respond faster after being damaged. Is that 80% faster or 5% faster? Because that could be, if I put a full skill point of granted into that and then it's 5% faster, I'm going to be like, damn, I wish I would have been able to carry more stamina up. So I agree with your point that like it is like the people are going to find it anyway, but I wonder if people are going to feel bad for choices with that vague wording.
Yeah.
That's only 1.2, by the way. That's only 1.2. There's nodes that could put 5 points into them, and then you figure, well, maybe I don't have enough points into it to make a difference. By the time you get 5 points in and you get the whole maximum out, you're like, dude, this is still not worth it.
And I don't think that's the right answer to say like 5-10%. Maybe, I mean, I hate doing this, but maybe there's a screen behind it that does break down the numbers. There's like a casual screen that says faster, then you can like hit X to reveal exactly what it does. Again,
more info.
I don't know there, but regret would be my big one. What if I go all the way into survival and I'm like, this actually doesn't make a difference? Like, I don't feel that difference. And then I see Rock fucking sprinting across the field, like actually having a difference. And I'm over here like, I'm over here like 5% faster opening cases. And I'm like, cool. Like,
great.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Again, I don't know if that's the right answer, but there's got to be a way to avoid regret and understand what I'm purchasing.
Right.
My opinion. Of course.
I think you could probably easily have like a respect points where like it has a scaling cost where like however many points you respec, because it's more and more expensive the more you do it. So that way, you realize, hey, don't be doing this willy-nilly. You should really think about it. And then, but at the same time, if you feel that regret, I can bring it back. And obviously, the further you go, the more rich you're likely to be. In which case you can afford it. Which case it's a good currency sink as well. But with regards to your comment, Rockhound, I think that's a really great point in terms of just a lot of these things aren't going to make or break your gunfights to a point, right? Obviously, if I have enough stamina to make it to cover more consistently, that's going to be different. But I have to have the game knowledge to actually do that, because as I often put it in previous guides that I've had for other games, is that I can't make you shoot faster. I can't make you shoot, more accurately. What I can do is give information to make good decisions. And I think consistently what's going to get you success in a game like this, like an Arc race, is making good decisions. Those other stats are just going to like help reinforce those good decisions.
Yeah, and I think what Itsluve was saying before about you make a choice on a particular branch or a node, and you're like, oh, this isn't as good as I thought. I don't think that should ever happen, whether you know the numbers or not. So from a game design point of view, it should always feel like, oh yeah, I can tell there's a difference. I'm running a little faster than I was before. But it should only ever feel like that. It should never feel like, oh, I've missed out on an 80% increase in this, right? That I don't think that should ever appear in the skill tree. It should be noticeable, but not that meaningful.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And that brings me back to kind of in World of Warcraft, one of the worst expansions ever is Shadowlands. This is going to take a little bit of a backstory. We went to the Afterlife. There was 4 different groups you could choose from. There was like different parts of the Afterlife. Think of it as like, so if I was a warrior, I could pick one of the 4 groups and you got extra skills. Well, what that quickly broke down to is that if I was raiding, one of them was the best. And people knew that. MMOs are a little bit different, but it got to a point where it was like, hey, this is better. So respect that. And then when they changed that, oh, this one's better now. I think that's the main thing of all the skill tree, is that, like Rockhound was saying, it should all be a 3 to 5%. You should feel a little difference, but these really shouldn't make gameplay changing effects on you.
Yeah. And chances are when the game releases, there will be things that, content creators like us are going to make a video saying you should definitely choose this node when you're on this branch, because it does make a significant difference. But then the counter is that Embark might, the following season or whatever they come up with around that side of things, they might go, actually, we're just going to knock that back a touch to have it being less impactful.
Yep, which is totally going to happen. They're going to balance these skill trees.
For sure. That's the nature of content creation, as it lives. When you're making videos with those kind of things, it's just, how long it will remain viable is just up to how you make that video and what they change. So an easy thing could be like, all right, well, I'm going to record me running in the shooting range, base stamina, right? With like unencumbered, nothing, whatever it is. I'm going to record it running from this point to that point. put a point, the stamina tree, do the exact same thing, record it, put another point, do the exact same thing, record it, do it over and over and over again. Cool. And I just you can upload a short video that way. Like, cool. Here's exactly what you're buying with stamina.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's an easy.
It makes a big difference, right? Like
right?
during Tech Test 2, I literally made I don't know, it was a 2-minute video saying, hey, if you haven't worked this out already, if you stow your weapon, you can run significantly faster than if you have your weapon out. To the point where it makes a massive difference,
yeah,
right?
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's pretty huge.
And I'm not saying they should change that, but when it comes to the skill tree, I don't think we should see differences that large.
Yeah.
Of course. That's the decision. That's a gameplay trade-off. That's kind of the difference, I think, between Arc Raiders and an RPG, whereas an RPG is you are your skills, right? That is your character. Your character are your skills, your abilities, but also your traits. That's basically the basis of your actual character. Whereas Arc Raiders, the basis of your character is your loot, your personal skill, your weapon, the armor you're wearing, things of that nature, not the skill tree aspect of it. The skill tree aspect, it should be like the frosting, not the actual cake.
Yeah, reminds me a lot of the Division, if you guys have ever played a lot of that Division 2 specifically, where you had your base and your stuff, but that end skill tree was just like very small percentages, and the skill tree actually went per weapons in the Division, but someone with a level 1 skill tree and level 5 skill tree, they could equal each other out with just little perks, a tiny little reload faster, a little bit of larger magazine.
And that comes down to, like, again, with the weapon side of things of Arc Raiders, like they don't have any weapon specific perks in their skill tree, which is great because it's not the nature of the game. That comes from you upgrading that specific weapon, giving it attachments, which you can then lose by dying. So, which is the nature of the genre, which is how it should be. It shouldn't be one of those cases where I have this, branch with like several nodes where my submachine gun is going to be so OP and this, that, and the other. And I pick it up off of you, and it was absolute dog water in your hands. Suddenly, I pick it up. Now it's really great, and like that probably shouldn't happen in an extraction shooter, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. Like if you think of a game like Scum, for instance, as you play the game, your skills and that actually, like as you run across the map, you get better at running, right? That's how they kind of deal with that. It would be interesting to have an element like that in Arc Raiders, but I think maybe it's that would take it a step outside that accessibility, serious casual sort of realm, and make it perhaps too hardcore, I suppose.
Yeah, and you never want time to be an advantage. I don't know. You never want someone who I played all day because I didn't have to go to my job and was running all day long, and now I can run further than you. Like I think we're leaning towards the casual side of it. I think kind of this is the better way to do it because like Tarkov's like that, right? You run more, you work out more, you just run better. And if people have time to put in, it doesn't always feel good as we want new people to play and kind of people to start that like, I mean, yeah.
And I think that's one of the really good things about Arc Raiders is that big ability to progress even if you don't extract successfully, right? So the skill tree can still be added to, so that if you failed a couple of extractions, well, the next time you go in, well, you can go, well, at least my stamina's faster. So this time I feel like I might be able to run to cover quicker and I've got a better chance of getting out this time.
Right.
I really like that they have that.
You finish your point. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I really like that they have that ability to progress your character without necessarily pinning it all down to having a successful extraction or what you bring out as far as loot goes.
Yeah, failing forward is what I always kind of inferred from mechanics like this. Like
that's a good description.
Like the safe pocket, for example. Like I think that's a staple of the genre, and it's super important because it helps you fail forward a little bit. Like, hey, I just got completely wiped. I lost 200k worth of gear, but at least I pulled out the objective of the mission item, or I pulled out. At least I did that, right? And that can help reduce the fomenting rage that is going on when you just lost that much crap. Especially for a newer player who maybe still not adding just frustration, but also confusion, which is a really dangerous combination when you're trying to deal with a customer you're trying to keep. And so
and initially I had thought that being able to complete quests, this is like the second tech test where we could talk about it but couldn't show gameplay. Not tech test 2, but the first tech test. I initially thought that being able to complete quests when you failed wasn't a great thing, but I think I've changed my mind now, and actually I think just from an accessibility point of view, it just adds to that failing forward. So if you've got something you can come away with it and go, well, at least I completed that quest and I've got that reward for it, even if I lost, a whole bunch of loot that I wanted.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean later down the line you can't make quests that you can't do that, right? Like we see Tarkov, there are some things where you can't put the quest item in that safety container and stuff. And I think as you get higher up, there should be like, okay, now I need to. There shouldn't ever be that option of like, whatever, I could just die. Like,
yeah, and it could be a quest that you have to bring something out. It can't go in the safe pocket. You've got to get it out to be able to take it back into another map, do something with it there, and then you've got to get that crafted item within the game back out again to do the same thing again. So there might be multiple steps that all require successful extractions.
But I would agree, dude. That early game, being able to be like, oh, I got the compass, the CD, whatever, and I died, but I got it here. Turn it in next. Keep going. Keep wanting to play instead of just like slam your head against the wall trying to do it over and over again.
It'll be a victory. It'll be a Pyrrhic victory, but it'll be a victory nonetheless. In which case, you keep a player playing that way as opposed to them being absolutely frustrated and be like, you know what, I'm done.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a question I had with regards to today's topic was with the hatch key specifically, because they had, for those of you who don't know, is that there is field craftable items that were on the survival tree node at one point. I think it was towards the later part of it. You got access to that. Now, I cannot confirm this on my own, but supposedly one of those items was a hatch key. Given everything we've talked about regards to hatch keys and how strong they are and how likely they'll get reworked in some way or another, like, how do you guys feel about it being made craftable or more accessible in some cases based off of a skill tree that way?
Well, I guess you could view it the other way around as well and say that if they only made them craftable by advancing your skill tree, then that would make them less accessible, at least initially. But it also means that some players would have access to them and others don't. It's going to be really interesting to see what they come back with around the Raider hatch keys, because they are so influential on the outcome of the game that's going to be something that will be looked at with a critical eye from the entire community.
Right.
Coming from an MMO perspective, if they are craftable, like I said, in a lot of MMOs I've played, New World's one of them that comes to mind recently. If you do something craftable like that is so overpowered, there needs to be an ingredient or a regent that comes on a time basis that can be adjusted. Have everything else be lootable and stuff, but maybe I have to go to a vendor to pick up, I don't know, like a battery cell, and then Embark can come in and be like, hey, you used to be able to buy these once every 3 days. It's once a week now. Or, hey, you used to be able to buy these once a week now. That's a little too much. Every other day now you can buy one. There needs to be one single part of it that they can just twist a little bit, that I can't just like farm all day long. And let's say you guys go to work and I have my day off, and then you guys come back and like, dude, I just farmed all day long. I got 80 hatch keys. Like, let's go now, right? Cool. There needs to be some part that they can manually go in there and twist that a little bit and reduce, or not limit, but control the amount of them, I think.
Interesting. I'm inclined to agree, but also, like you said, with regards to with Rockhound, what you say is in having access. It's kind of just some players having access to it, some players not having access to it, and it's also the nature of the game. It's an extraction shooter, which means you're going to loot it off other players anyways. Presuming at this point that you can't just put it in your safe pocket. But I don't know. It's weird because we don't know what's going to happen with regards to hatch keys, right? So we can only assume based off how they were before. We knew they need to get adjusted. Only if you just completely remove the ability to buy them and only craft them, and at that point it makes the survival, branch significantly more valuable to get quicker, sooner rather than later. And I can easily see groups themselves going, cool, who's the designated hatch key maker? Like, cool, you're gonna take the shortest path possible to get that hatch key, and you can fill out everything else. And you're the person who we're always gonna bring on raids, so we can always bring hatch keys ready. Whereas I feel like in the case of people who have not quite a large group to fall on, like solos or maybe just them and one other buddy or something like that, it becomes significantly harder, and it kind of just, I don't know, I think it doesn't quite hit the mark in terms of the proliferation that they're shooting for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think it's less likely because the game is equally for squads as it is for solos, right? And so as a solo player, you don't want to be going, oh, well, normally my buddy brings the hatch keys and I'm playing solo today and I don't have access to them, so I'm kind of at a disadvantage here. I don't think they'll go down that path where it'll affect you playing from solo play to squad play. I think way more likely that they'll do things like everyone has to have a raider hatch key to be able to go out a raider hatch per person, right? So you've all got to bring one, and one key doesn't let the others out. Or changing the cost of them, or making them less accessible, maybe on a time format, like Itsluve was saying before.
Yeah.
But I don't think they'll make it as part of a character specialization or part of the skill tree.
And that kind of comes back to our last conversation, right? Where the skill tree shouldn't be, one of them shouldn't be like, oh, you got to do this.
Yeah.
Like there should be little tiny things, and hatch keys there's no way you can do an optional hatch key thing. You either have it or you don't, right? It's not like one of those options where it's like you can loot a little faster. It's like, no, you can do the game a lot faster and a lot safer.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah, and like we were saying before, the percentage differences, having a raider hatch key, you could say makes a 75% difference to the ability to extract successfully. So that should never be in a skill tree a difference of that size.
And then I think tiny things too, right? You can't put it in your case. So if you die in raid, you lose that hatch key. Like small little tweaks like that, where it needs to be a risk bringing in also. Like if I'm solo and I can bring in a hatch key and do it myself, but I find a squad of 3, I need to be like, oh, I lost my hatch key, right? It needs to be it can't just be like this. I have it on me all the time. I always got one. It's safe. It needs to be a risky sort of risk and reward thing.
Agreed. But I think with hatch keys, we kind of all beat that one to a horse. I think everyone's kind of beat that one to death. Beat a dead horse, all whatever the saying you're going to use. But it's, yeah, I think in terms of how that plays into the skill tree, I think it comes down to like how valuable is that going to be versus how valuable hatch key is going to be, right? That brings me to my next question here. In terms of improvements, what do you think can be done, and like what do you feel like requires some tweaking in regards to the skill trees? If you had your say of your kind of magic wand, like what are some things that you can be big or small about the skill tree and how it's handled? Rockhound, what's something that comes to mind that you feel like they could have done this better?
Yeah, I think 2 things, and we kind of touched on them a little bit already. One is the ability to backtrack and change your mind. And, maybe that comes with a cost, whatever that is. But being able to change your mind, and also, as we touched on before, being able to feel like your character is different from another character as a result of going down that skill tree, as opposed to going, oh, I just need to fill them all up, and it's a prioritization of which order I do it in, but everyone's going to be the same by the end. I'd like to feel I can make my character a little bit different from someone else's.
Okay, so being able to respec and being able to not have to fill all of it up is basically you have limited amount of points, so you have to pick a specialization. You're gonna have to pick a way to actually play.
Making a choice around your play style and how you like to play, not to the point where it becomes constraining, but enough that you feel like I play as a sprinter. I like to sprint from point to point. That's my particular play style. Or I like to loot quietly, or whatever it is. Just having some difference that you can choose, and you feel like you have some agency around that.
Right. So I'm gonna piggyback off of that. I agree, right, with both points completely, and I'm not sure if Lufu have any particular disagreements with anything you just said there. I think it's pretty straightforward. I would add on to that the trees themselves, with that being said, obviously would need to get tweaked. What that looks like, obviously we're just going to run down the rabbit hole there, but at the very least for me, I feel like the later halves of the branches themselves need to be significantly better than they are now. In my opinion, if you just look at the branches themselves, like I said earlier, the conditioning is just so front-rated that it makes the last half just fall off like a rock. I could live without every single one of these. I have no compunction whatsoever to just continue down the conditioning tree. That shouldn't be the case. It should be like, I really need to get to this end thing, as efficiently as I can because it's that strong, as opposed to I've gotten all my use out of this branch. And whereas mobility kind of had the same thing in terms of just like, it was good in the first half, there's like fight or flight, which is really the one that I really want at the end, and then everything else is kind of like whatever, and then survival was just garbage all the way through. Kidding. It was meh all the way through. But I feel like if that is going to be the case, if we're going to have those limited specs, so to speak, I feel like it should get stronger the farther you get into that spec. Not like it shouldn't be front loaded, because if that's front loaded, I can tell you right now, my spec would be first half of conditioning, first half of mobility, done. That would be I would want to have it be progressively stronger as towards the edges, to the point where it's rewarding to be in that spec. Itsluve, what are some things you saw on there that, from your perspective, could use some work?
I think Rockhoundblack agency. I think I want my choices to matter, but at the same time, I want them not to matter. I don't want to feel like I'm missing out. I don't want to go on a website and be like, what's the best like little tree to go down? I want to go, I can wall leap a little further and not have Rockhound going, hey, you picked a wall leap one, cool. And then just like, that sucks. Like, why'd you do that, idiot?
Yeah.
Like, not that you're that type of person, but like, obviously, like, I want them to be like,
he would call you an idiot. But no.
I'm obviously, yes. But I want them,
or some New Zealand version of that, I guess. I don't know.
I want them to not matter, but I want them to matter. That's the dumbest thing to say, but they're walking a fine line of, I want to have something that I make that like is agency, that my character is a little bit different from you, but I don't want it to be the wrong choice. I don't want it to be a detrimental choice that I didn't pick something else.
Right.
Yeah. 100% agree.
And then make me weak too, right? Like, if you can only pick so many things, make me not good at some things, but good at some things. And you're not good at some things, I'm good at some things. There needs to be a trade-off instead of just worse.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to do that in extraction game a lot of times, because you should wait, like in a hierarchy of things, if players are willing to tolerate their impact on, it's like top one, skill, right? Right below that, gear. Right below that, time, which is skill tree, which is basically what it represents, right? And so if they feel like they got killed by anything other than skill, right, they're gonna start feeling really bad the lower this tier goes down to what they think is responsible, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, just my experience with the Cycle Frontier, people had this horrible like feeling whenever they got killed with someone who had really high gear, right? Now, never mind the fact that like the gear difference in that game was just microscopic. They didn't know that, though. As a new player, they didn't know that, and there was nothing in that game that taught them that. At least in this game, you have the actual shooting range to work with. You have the actual to test all these things. So you can know for a fact, hey, it took this much to kill this armor, it took much to kill this armor, it took this much to kill this armor, so I know it's doable, right? I know what it takes to do that. And so when they're being killed by someone who has better gear than them or a different weapon, they're not surprised. They're not confused, and to some degree, they're not so frustrated because of it. They're like, well, I knew the rules. I played the game. I lost this time, right? Whereas it would feel really crummy to be like, all right, cool. I'm going to play here. I beat him here. I came equal to him here. I even beat him here. And then I didn't beat him here because he started 100 hours before I did, and I lost because of it. That would feel really crummy.
Yeah.
So I feel that balance of,
it's so easy, guys.
Yeah. Oh yeah, super
make
easy.
your choice matter. Make the choice matter, but don't make it matter. It's know pretty simple stuff.
Yeah.
So an example where you could differentiate them would be, let's say your playstyle is okay. I can actually even pin this down to people. Like, if you're a shroud type player, right, plays aggressively all the time, always pushing forward, to take on PvP, then you could have traits that allow you to not think about retreating so much, but you're actually going to try and push a lot of the time, right, to try and finish off a fight. The counter to that be, my type of player, you could actually go, you know what, I want to retreat, heal, flank around and get an angle on them that they don't expect. And then having those two players both being strong at those things, that would be a really interesting skills meeting. Like, either person could win.
Here's an off-the-wall idea, right? Imagine a skill set where, like, okay, it's a more defensive tree, so you're not going to get access to this if you go to a more aggro play, but the ability to throw traps a small distance, armed, right? And so you can be that defensive player. It's not going to be useful as a grenade because the throw distance is just not very far, but you don't have to sit there and like, I'm going to try to arm this thing. Like, you're a defensive player now, like, cool, I'm just going to drop this quick and just go, because I went down this tree, I have a defensive ability to do that. Or certain items, like, you know, putting up the wall braces or what, like certain items are just better used in your hands. But then it comes back to that whole, like, do you want the items themselves to be different in one player's hands versus another? And again, that becomes messy. It becomes messy.
Yeah.
As I'm saying it, I'm realizing, maybe not.
And the other thing too is, sorry, go on, Rob.
I was just going to add, if the differences are subtle, but you still feel like it's adding to your play style. You know, like if I can have things that allow me to drop some defenses, flank to another position, and try and attack that same player from that, well, that feels like I've got some agency around my play style. But likewise, if you're the sort of player that just wants to push forward the whole time and you can still take on a fight even when you're hurt because you know you have some ability that allows that, well, then we both have agency and we can both play our own play styles, but they're different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing, too, I think is going to be Embark's approach to changes. Are they going to be someone that's going to wait until a full season where just survival's terrible? Or can they come in a month, 2 months in and say, hey, we've tweaked this a little bit? I've seen the finals go both ways over 8 seasons. I've seen them wait a little too long to nerf some things and, you know, kind of come in quickly. But it's going to be about their pacing of like, hey, it's all of season 1. Yeah, you're just going conditioning. It's just better than all of them. Or can we see a patch note, a weekly developer note of like, hey, we noticed conditioning is kind of strong. We've toned these down a little bit. And that, you know, comes back to, are they stepping in? Can you respec when they do that? Kind of, again, there needs to be agency and they need to kind of be balanced.
Right.
Yeah, no, I personally, I feel like if you compare it to the finals, I'd like to see them take more time to make changes to Arc Raiders. So give us time, you know, give us a few weeks to figure out, you know, what the things are that we want to see changed. And,
different kind of game.
You know, maybe the updates are even monthly or, you know, versus whatever they do now, weekly or every 2 weeks for the finals. So I'd like to see it given a little more breathing room than perhaps that they do on the finals.
Yeah.
Given all that, last question on this one. So let's say they don't go the specialist route. They want to go in. Everyone's going to get the full tree. All the skills are going to be for everybody eventually, right? Because the agency is going to be in your gear, right? That's going to be where your play style is at. We didn't see a lot of that in the tech test, but I feel like that's probably, I'm actually going to even make a video on it in terms of, I feel like that's probably some depth they left on the table in terms of the ability to play differently, because it felt like because of armor, you only skilled in one direction. It just went from light to medium to heavy. There was no reason to go backwards. And I feel like that kind of left a lot on the table when it comes to diversifying the way you wanted to play. Because, you know, I want to be this brute, juggernaut, heavy armor, you know, shotgun in your face kind of player, or I want to be a more nimble, have a lot of utility, oriented type of player. And I feel like a lot of that, especially considering it is an extraction shooter, and you have to emphasize the gear fear of it, putting all of the agency in the gear itself, as opposed to the skill tree, which is basically there as just a means of like gaining progress for until you don't. Do you feel like maybe that, just because of the nature of the game that it is, it's an extraction shooter, it's not an RPG, it's not a PvP shooter like a finals, like a direct arena shooter like the finals. It's an extraction game, and the skill tree itself, while it's fun, maybe it shouldn't be as impactful as we've been talking about here in this particular episode. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so rather it complements the weapons. I think that's potentially certainly the case. Like if I think of the way I was playing, I would usually have an SMG of some kind, which was kind of my lay down some fire so I can then back off a bit and start to think about how I want to approach this fight. But I might carry a Renegade as my sort of medium distance weapon that I would then use once I'd flanked around, right? So that was way more meaningful, I think, than things in the skill tree. And I probably agree that those choices should have more meaning than being able to run a little bit faster.
Yeah, I think it should affect the tiny moments. I think when it's quiet, when I'm looting a chest or opening a door, I should be like, oh, this is kind of cool. It's a little bit faster. But I think if we're in a big 3-on-3 firefight, I don't want to have a situation where like, oh, dang, he chose that one stat. You know what I mean? I want to not that. I want it to feel grounded. I never want to be in a gunfight where it's like, oh shit, he's using that. I think in a gunfight, I shouldn't know what your trees are. I think you should feel them yourself, but I shouldn't know. And I just on pure effectiveness of it, it should be a 3 to 5%.
Very good way of putting it.
Yeah, that's a very that's an excellent way to put it. Where you feel the impact of your tree, but the opponent doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. Well, I think that's probably a good place to end on. We've gotten a good hour at this point. Before we head out, I want to give you guys an opportunity to talk about any of the upcoming content you guys got coming. I know, Rockhound, you had that recent, was it debunking the Arc Raiders myths, part 2 recently. I enjoyed that one heavily. Got anything else coming down for us?
Yeah, so I put one out just last week on sort of what Arc Raiders' secret source is, which is a bit of a deeper dive into things that aren't immediately obvious, like we've been talking about today. And I'm working on a video. Actually, it's the second video that I've made about whether Arc Raiders and the finals have lore in common.
Shared universe.
As a kind of reaction to another video that was put out by another content creator.
Yeah, I saw that one making the rounds. I thought, yeah, interesting.
So I should have that out this week.
Nice. What about you, Luv?
I have no idea what I'm doing. I put out a video last week about James Bond Agent Under Fire on the PlayStation 2. And who knows what we're doing next?
Broad spectrum,
here to have some fun.
Wide appeal type stuff,
I'm just doing whatever feels right, man.
That's fine, good. Hey, you got to do that James Bond Jr., man. I'm telling you, I feel like that was one of those cartoon series and video games that just kind of I think fell through the cracks. And I was like the only one who played it, I think.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
And for myself, I'm gonna be putting out a video regarding what I feel like we finished talking about it, is about the lack of depth in the armor of Arc Raiders, and how basically they can probably just do the same thing they did with weapons, and it would have been really easy for them to do, to add depth to the armor, of course some tuning as well, but basically if they just did the exact same thing to armor as they do to weapons, you could have a lot more depth and a lot more choice in how they do armor. So I look forward to putting that one out next week.
That sounds good.
I want to thank everybody for showing up today. Luv, you've been great. Rockhoundblack, you're horrible as usual. I'm always bad.
Always.
But I wanted to thank everyone for showing up today. Anyone who's listening, thank you so much for your support. Rockhound, if you want to send us out, it'd be my pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me once more, and everyone enjoy the rest of your day, and kia kaha. Stay strong.